So what I'm about to explain are based on government regulations, which are subject to change at any time. It is your responsibility to ensure that you have all the proper documentation to board the ship and enter each of the countries on your cruise. We decided to take our first ever cruise, and we did it as a family. So we decided on a Disney cruise to the Bahamas. We are U.S. citizens and had never traveled outside the U.S., while the Bahamas is outside the U.S. as an independent nation. So, did we have to have passports? The short answer, no, and here is why. And why, in hindsight, I would have rather we had passports. The key here is a closed-loop cruise. What does that mean? It means your cruise starts and ends in the exact same U.S. port. So for us, we sailed out of Port Canaveral, Florida. We went to the Bahamas and Disney's Castaway Cay and came right back to Port Canaveral. Because we did not enter the country by air or land, the country being the Bahamas, and because the cruise returns to the same U.S. port, we did not need a passport for this specific itinerary. This is thanks to something called the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative, or WHTI. It allows U.S. citizens on these specific types of cruises to use other forms of identification to re-enter the US. Now, they do have to be specific forms of identification, and I'll show you what we used. But if you want more information, you have to check out the website, or Disney also had a lot of information about what they will accept. My husband had his passport, I did not. So I had to use my driver's license and my birth certificate, the original birth certificate. The kids also had to have their original birth certificates. And here's where a crucial update comes in. You cannot bring photocopies of these. They have to be the original certificates or a certified copy, from the actual Vital Records office. Not the hospital certificate, not the cute little baby footprint copies. It needs to be official. So here's the thing. I have to admit, I was a nervous wreck though. Leading up to the cruise, every single night I was asking my husband, are you sure? Are you sure we're going to have no problem? We're not going to be turned away. We're not going to get stuck in the Bahamas because we don't have the documentation to get back on the ship. Are you sure? And he was so frustrated with me. But we did have to put our information onto the Disney cruise website as like this pre-registration. All of our documents were approved. And then once we were there, of course, here I am back in the US, so obviously it worked out. We were able to disembark the ship in the Bahamas on both the Castaway Cay, which is their private island, and in Nassau. And although each time I had this nagging fear that what if we lose the copies of the birth certificates, or just what if something goes wrong and they won't let us back on? What if there was a problem with the documents, we lost them, they got wet? But here's the thing, every single time it was fine. We showed our key to the world's card and our birth certificates or IDs and walked back on board. The process was smooth, efficient, and honestly a testament to how well these closed-loop cruises and Disney cruise are set up. So while yes, you can do a Disney cruise to the Bahamas without a passport on a closed-loop itinerary, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't just want to get the passport. There could be an emergency. You could miss the ship and get left at port. There are situations where it just would be nice to have that passport for some peace. So where can you check for the most up-to-date and official information on passport and travel document requirements? Always go straight to the source. The U.S. Department of State's travel website, travel.state.gov. This is your go-to for all passport services, international travel advisories, and country-specific entry requirements. You may be surprised which countries are under travel advisories and which aren't. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, they have specific information on the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative and acceptable documents for re-entry into the U.S. Of course, your specific cruise line. Like I said, we did Disney Cruise Line, and they had great information. Every cruise line will have a required travel documents or password requirements section. Always check this for your exact sailing. Some cruise lines or specific itineraries might have stricter rules. So to summarize, as U.S. citizens on a closed-loop cruise to the Bahamas, we used birth certificates and I had my driver's license. However, for ultimate flexibility, peace of mind, and to save your marriage from your anxious doomsday thinking, maybe that's just me, and emergency preparedness, I now only like to travel for us and our kids with our passports. Check with your cruise line and do what's best for you. This is not legal advice. This is just our experience on a closed-loop Disney cruise in the Bahamas.